Hey, late arrivers. My name is Joel Revel. I'm the Deputy Dean of Academic and Student Affairs in the Division of Masters and Professional Programs at Brown. I oversee all of our professional master's degrees, including the Executive MBA. I also oversee student affairs, career services and professional development, and academic oversight for master's programs. Uh, Besides my formal role, I am a graduate of the Executive MBA program at Brown. I took the program in 23, 24 and graduated in 2024. It was my first foray into business education. My original education was in French history, but it was a fantastic program. I've never regretted it. And so I'm happy to be able to talk to you today a little bit about the program, and in particular about two aspects of the program that are the most hands-on and experiential: the Cape Town Residency and the Key Reflection Project, or KRP, that wraps up the program. I believe that if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat, and my colleague Emma Lipinski will be tracking questions, and there'll be plenty of time at the end of today's session for Q&A. So I'm assuming that many of you are familiar with the IE Brown EMBA, but I wanted to start with a quick overview of the program, and then I'll take you through our vision for the Cape Town Residency, discuss what a KRP is, and tell you a little bit about what some people have done with the KRP, and wrap up, tell you what next steps might be, and take any questions that you have. So, what is the IE Brown Executive MBA in general? The program is finishing its 15th year. We're having some 15th birthday celebrations this year. And it emerged a decade and a half ago from a collaboration between humanist and social scientist faculty at Brown and IE University Business School. IE, for those of you in America who may be watching, is a globally recognized business program centered in Madrid, but with several locations across the globe. Brown, of course, is a member of the Ivy League, one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in the country. The program has grown over time to become a worldwide community, and this is something I can speak to personally as an alum. There are around 500 alumni of the program, and we talk to each other pretty constantly. It is a wonderful alumni community. In fact, we're planning a reunion for this fall where I expect a significant number of that 500 people to come from all over the world to descend on Providence for a few days of learning and reconnecting and networking. As I mentioned, the union of these two schools is what makes this program particularly powerful. Brown itself has over 100,000 alumni, so I'm going to come back to in a little bit. IE is a little bit newer, but still has a large and growing alumni base around the world and a fantastic faculty focused on teaching business. And I really want to emphasize teaching here because uh, as a teacher myself, I can tell you that the IE faculty are dedicated to pedagogy in a way that one rarely sees in business schools. They are fantastic teachers, and I think that you'll find that if you join the program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the format of the program. There's some quotes thrown in here that you can read on your own. I'm not going to read them to you. The program itself is one of the shorter and more intensive executive MBAs in the market. It takes 15 months starting in late February or early March, with an introductory session in Madrid and Segovia, Spain, in the absolutely beautiful 12th century monastery that's been restored by IE and turned into classroom space. It then continues over 15 months of residential and online sessions, including 2 sessions each in Madrid and Providence, and a week in Cape Town, which I'll talk about extensively today. The in-person sessions are intensive. They are between 8 and 10 hours of class a day, often with projects that you're working on at night or over the weekends. And they tend to focus on some of the more functionally in-person skills that you'll be learning in the program. So things like negotiations and public speaking, we do focus on the in-person sessions, but there's also finance, accounting, et cetera, that shift between online and in-person depending on which modality you're in at the time. The program's curriculum is one of its unique attributes. It includes most of the core business classes that you would receive in any MBA or executive MBA, accounting, cost control, financial management, human resources management, strategy, things like that. But woven into those classes and among those classes are a number of social science classes that give you the academic foundations behind much of what you learn in a business program. So a lot of business education is built on core scholarship in economics, sociology, organizational psychology, political science, et cetera. And at the IE Brown MBA, those disciplines are foregrounded through classes like game theory, human resources management, slavery and capitalism, which is an oddball, but has become a really important cornerstone of the program. It's one of the first classes that you will take. It's been in the program since its inception 15 years ago, and it's an absolutely phenomenal class that helps you learn about the ways that accounting practices and management practices in modern capitalism have a direct line back to plantation slavery in the US. It's really fascinating material. You'll also study uh, globalization from a sociological perspective and a number of different economics classes that'll give you a better sense of how companies function in a globalizing and now perhaps deglobalizing world. The Global Trends Seminar is another key part of the IE Brown EMBA. This is a seminar that's made up of talks by 20 prominent scholars at IE, Brown, and other universities on topics of emerging interest for global business. So, just to take a few examples pulled out of here, not quite at random, there are a couple of excellent lectures on how to think about climate change strategically, how to think about how climate change might affect your industry, might affect flows of trade, or might affect borders. There are a couple of classes on emerging AI opportunities and threats, both how to work with AI and how to think about AI, what the underlying technology is in AI with Professor Michael Littman, who is fairly famous in this area. Um, and classes on things like how to convince people that disagree with you, that fundamentally disagree with you based on social psychology and cognitive psychology with Professor Stephen Sloman. So that's a really fantastic series. It becomes a class in the everyone's expected to write a paper drawing from several of these talks, but it's also just an opportunity to engage with really world-leading scholars in a number of different areas. So, the reason you're here is to hear about the immersion experience in Cape Town and the hands-on experience of the KRP. I want to start by asking a question that I ask myself as a leader of this program, which is why Cape Town? We evaluate the program from time to time, and we always ask things like, are we bringing the students the best education we possibly can? Are we bringing them to the right environment to learn in ways that will help them in their future business careers? And so I recently was thinking about, is Cape Town the right answer? Should we stick with Cape Town? And I'm pretty convinced that the answer is yes. And so the reasons that I love bringing students to Cape Town are, well, maybe three or fourfold. First of all, Cape Town is an emerging economy, which makes it fundamentally different from what a lot of us have experienced. Many of our students are from either developed economies or from developed sectors within emerging economies. And Cape Town allows you to go to a place where you can see a mix of absolutely world-class technology, access to high-speed internet, for instance, that much of the rest of the continent of Africa lacks, access to a highly developed labor market, and access to a highly developed financial market with, at times, failing infrastructure and complicated, if not failing, politics. And it allows you to ask questions like, how do you enter a market where there's strong infrastructure perhaps for your customers, but a weak infrastructure tying you to human capital? That's a kind of question that you may be faced in your business lives that you're going to have a hard time answering from the US or Europe. Cape Town is, of course, also the leading business city in and the leading tourist city in South Africa, which is a country with an absolutely fascinating and unique history, sociology, and politics. I'm sure many of you are familiar with South Africa's past as an apartheid state and the anti-apartheid struggle of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, culminating with the fall of the apartheid regime and Nelson Mandela's rise to power. This history inflects politics and sociology of South Africa in ways that you'll learn about in the program. The human capital of South Africa is deeply marked by its apartheid past. Laws governing everything from foreign ownership of business to access to capital are responses to this apartheid era history. And so Cape Town gives us an opportunity to learn about the general problems of doing business in emerging economies, but also gives you practice thinking about the ways that the specificity of any given place make business more exciting and more challenging. So while you're in Cape Town, you'll be there for about 8 days, and you'll be working in teams of 6 to 7 students. Each of you will be assigned to a particular vertical. Um, I've listed here 5 of the verticals that we'll be using in the coming year. These could change from year to year, but the general idea will stay the same. When I talk about a vertical here, I really mean it from top to bottom, from the intersection of South African finance, technology, healthcare, et cetera, with global markets, global supply chains, and global labor markets, often with global corporations doing business in South Africa, through the layers of government bureaucracy and state institutions like the electrical system or the transportation system, the education system, et cetera, to the questions of human capital that, as I mentioned before, are defined by the living conditions of the majority of people in South Africa. So you'll spend time in the townships of Langa and Khayelitsha, where you'll learn about from people who are pursuing advanced degrees and who provide tremendous human capital opportunities, but who may lack running water or easy access to transportation to get them to the corporations and institutions that you'll be learning about elsewhere in the program. The Cape Town experience really falls into sort of 3 time periods. The first is preparatory coursework. So over the fall, before you go to Cape Town, you'll be in a class with Professor Robin Curnow, who is a former CNN anchor of CNN South Africa, has done a bunch of other journalistic work in the country, and is an incredible resource for learning about South African history, politics, and economics. You'll learn how to analyze opportunities in emerging markets, how to understand the unique elements of South Africa that inflect its business environment, and how to look at constraints and opportunities in South Africa in particular, but in any emerging market context. After that several months of pre-learning in October, November, and December, and over that time, actually, you'll start to talk to some of the folks in South Africa who you'll be working with. We have a partner organization called Reciprocity in Cape Town that sets up each team with drivers and guides. You can see here two of my team members with our guide who's in the center, who can tell you more about Cape Town as you're driving from place to place and will help you get oriented, help you learn how to talk to different constituencies in South Africa. When you arrive, you'll spend a week intensively investigating your vertical, learning from consumers and workers in the townships, learning from politicians, from bureaucrats, from leaders of South Africa's business community, and from international businesses who are doing business in South Africa, and beginning to build a picture of the problems and opportunities in your particular vertical. At the end of and after your time in South Africa, you'll produce a project that will analyze the opportunities and challenges to market entry in your sector. You'll look at the motives of companies and large nonprofits, in particular within the context of the history and culture of South Africa, to be able to think ethically about entering an emerging market with the history of South Africa. How would you treat South Africa's history with respect and dignity as you pursue what is likely to be a profit motive if you're working with a for-profit company? And you'll learn to think really deeply about any particular emerging market opportunity. You'll also, I hope, have fun. This is a photo of one of our recent classes with Justice Albie Sachs, who is in the center. Albie Sachs is known as the father of South Africa's modern constitution. He is an absolutely fascinating man. He was an early member of the ANC, the African National Congress, who lost the sight in one eye and the use of one arm to a car bomb that was planted in his car by the South African police forces, trying to kill him for his work in support of freedom in South Africa. And after the fall of the apartheid regime, he was asked to work on creating a new constitution and became one of the first constitutional court judges for the country. The last few years, we've been able to meet with Justice Sachs, and he will regale you for a long time with stories of the history of South Africa and of his experience, both with the ANC and as a constitutional court judge, where he worked with leading politicians, business leaders, and legal scholars around the world, creating constitutions modeled on that of South Africa. I'm going to turn now to the key reflection projects, which wrap up your time in the MBA program. The KRPs are a bit of an odd creature. They're unlike what you may encounter in other business school programs. I think of them really as a tightly knit combination of two things. They're a research project in that they have probably a more serious scholarly side than many business school projects elsewhere. And they're solution oriented, which is something that business schools teach, and including the Brown IE Business School, but that sometimes in the academy we tend to forget. So they are opportunities to work with one or two of your classmates on a particular problem. This problem can be very down to earth, nuts and bolts, and kind of practical. It can be, solving a problem with a new app or a new invention. It can also be relatively abstract, structural, or organizational. So it can be thinking through a problem in your industry or a problem in your own organization that you can identify and use the tools that you've gained over the course of the MBA to resolve and proposing a possible solution for it. At their best, KRPs integrate the work that you've done in all of your classes across the course of the MBA. They usually have a financial component that draws on accounting, cost control, and financial management to analyze the financial constraints or financial opportunities of your particular problem set. And a good KRP won't propose a solution that is financially unsustainable. They're also an opportunity to use research methods that you've honed over the course of the 15 months. In recent years, that has meant qualitative research methods that you've gained in classes like ethnographic research methods, or classes on human resources management. And it also means quantitative methods that you've gained in your accounting and financial management courses to analyze the opportunities in your area. And finally, they're an opportunity to work together and look forward beyond your MBA to think about how you're going to use the skills that you've gained in the MBA. The two most important things you're going to get out of this program are concrete and applicable skills and an amazing connection with a network of people who are going to be your friends and colleagues for the rest of your lives. So what I've got here on the slide are just a handful of companies that were started out of KRPs in recent years. This is not a complete list by any means. In fact, it was mostly based on my knowledge of just my cohort, which produced two of these companies. So I'll take one example that I know particularly well, which is Mindful AI. Mindful AI was originally a KRP out of a cohort 2 years ago that was driven in particular by a woman who at the time worked for Amazon Web Services, and who had a daughter who identifies as neurodivergent. And as she was thinking through her own business education, the woman who started Mindful AI was thinking about what her daughter's experience would be when she enters the workforce and when she enters a business environment. Her daughter is a brilliant young woman who I am quite certain will succeed very well, but who also sometimes struggles with things like assessing facial expressions or assessing tone. So Mindful AI was a response to that that uses personalized AI to help people in both neurodivergent and neurotypical people in the workplace communicate across the neurodivergence gap. It provides advice and readings of texts and real-time assessments of facial expression to try and share the experience across neurodivergence divide, of what people might be intending with subtle cues, or particular facial expressions. So it has launched. It's a functional company. It is I'm not sure, I think the second round of funding right now. And it's something that to me really exemplifies what the IE Brown MBA is about, in that it is an attempt to solve a deeply personal problem through extremely ethical approach to thinking about working together in teams in a workplace, in a way that uses the capitalist system for ultimately for good. So there are a number of examples of this that have come out of the KRP projects. Not all of them become companies, but it's a good opportunity to play with an idea if you have one. Just quickly say a couple words about ROI. This is not really the point of this presentation, but I think it's something you all should be thinking about as you look at EMBAs. Uh, in the IE Brown MBA, we, as of last surveying, 58% of graduates had seen their salaries increase by an average of 40% post-graduation. 30% of our graduates from the last 5 years are in executive roles of one format or another. 22% are founders of businesses, and 90% report using the skills that they gained in their MBA regularly in their work. And you can see here a list of just some of our places where our recent graduates work. These are all folks who will be part of your alumni network when you graduate. And I promise I am on a WhatsApp group with all of the Brown IE alumni, as well as one with just my cohort. And we talk every day. And frequently people will say, hey, like, looking for a job at this business. Somebody know somebody who works there, or we're looking to hire somebody else. And it becomes a really robust hiring network. That alumni network is huge. It's over now 120,000 alumni of Brown University, 500 of those MBA, but Brown alums are really friendly and really happy to talk to each other. And over 75,000 alumni of IE University, which has a great network of alumni clubs that you can be a part of. If you're interested, the next steps, of course, are the application. It is as low lift an application as we can make it while maintaining academic rigor. So it requires a couple of essay statements that are about a page, page and a half, 2 layers of recommendations, transcripts, and a virtual or in-person interview. It does not require GMAT scores. The next deadline coming up is July 13th, which will guarantee you priority review. And the final deadline for 2027 is January 18th. And with that, I'm going to just flash our website up here and welcome any questions that we might have.
So it looks like the first question in the Q&A, how do you ensure the safety of students when they travel to South Africa?
Well, that's a good question. The part of South Africa that we stay in is exceptionally safe. The part of Cape Town is this, as far as I know, the safest city in South Africa. And we stay in the waterfront district, which is a highly developed tourist area that has police and watch people out on the streets all the time. That said, in really anywhere, crime can be a problem. So, we do suggest that we strongly recommend that students stay in one of the 3 hotels that we book, which are all right together in the waterfront district and connected to the building that you'll be taking your classes in. When we leave Cape Town, we do so as a group in buses or vans that are organized by the program. And we suggest that people stay in groups and be careful with your belongings in particular if you're out at night. I think property theft is really the bigger problem in Cape Town. South Africa can be a violent place, but the violence, as is often the case, is centered in poorer areas, pretty far away from the center of Cape Town where you're staying.
Thank you. The next question is asking if you can explain a little bit more about IE Brown, that partnership.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, my background before I got an MBA was as a historian. I'm a French historian by training, and so I'm going to tell you the historical version. The IE Brown partnership started 15 years ago through kind of a quirky conversation between faculty at Brown who are in the humanities, one actually who's a musicologist, faculty at Brown in engineering who do entrepreneurship and business, and friends of theirs at IE who are in the business school. And they thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we created a program for people who are already in business and who maybe need a little bit of additional business education in specific areas. Like if you're in marketing, maybe you need a little brush up on accounting, but who also want a sort of rich humanist education. Over time, as happens, the proposition has shifted somewhat away from its original humanist focus to a more social scientific focus, where the way I think about where we've landed now is that IE continues to offer and has always offered a fantastic core business education. The accounting class, the cost control class, new classes on AI and emerging technologies are taught by IE faculty, and they're great at it. And at Brown, what we bring that I think fits well into particularly mid-career business people's daily lives is an ability to connect the rigorous and deep academic study of sociology, globalization, tax regimes, economic incentives that grounds a lot of what you get in business school, but you don't always necessarily get to engage with in business school, um, to allow you to better see what's around the corner. I mean, a way that one of our faculty put this a while ago that always stuck with me is like anybody, first of all, anybody who goes to business school is going to get the same basic set of models. If you come out of business school and can't do a SWOT analysis or understand Porter's five forces, then you're definitely missing something. But that gives you no advantage. Anybody who went to business school can do that. In fact, really anybody these days who has the internet can probably learn that stuff. What we're hoping to give you is both an understanding of what how to think about what might be coming next in this really volatile moment. And even more importantly, the tools to learn yourself in the future, what's coming next. So we'll prepare you by talking to you, setting you up with phenomenal faculty to learn about how to assess the economic implications of the current tariff war, to learn more about China's attitude toward the US and the history of Chinese thinking about the US and the US thinking about China and the role of Taiwan in that triad. But in 5 years, in 10 years, there may be a new set of problems, and you're going to come away with the IE Brown MBA with the ability to really think deeply about whatever the next set of problems are that we can't prepare you for because we don't know what they are yet.
Thank you. And it looks like we have one more question in the Q&A. So I'm going to put out a last call. If anybody has any other questions, please drop them in the Q&A now. I also did put our email address in the chat. So if you have any personalized questions and you'd like to reach out via email, please feel free to email us at professional@brown.edu. And I did link to the website. So if you're looking to learn more about the application and admissions, you can go ahead and check us out there. But on to the last question. So when working in verticals, do you get placed based upon your background or existing skill sets? For example, working IT tech, and get placed into a technology vertical, or do you get to work outside of your skill set aligned vertical to develop weaker or less refined skills and knowledge? And am I approaching this question with the right mindset, or is this the wrong lens to be thinking of?
It's a great lens to be asking, at least at this stage. And I'm not going to give you a solid answer because it really depends on who's in the class. Chances chances are at least half the class is not going to have a completely direct and obvious relationship to the vertical, to any of the verticals. And some significant portion of the class is going to have some experience in the verticals. I think we would want to mix. I think we would love to place you in a vertical where some of you will be experts on some portion of the vertical, but we wouldn't want to put you in a situation where you're not learning anything. So I'm gonna, make up an example. I don't know, like a negative example might be that if you're a senior leader at Procter and Gamble, and you really understand packaged goods inside and out, then putting you in a packaged goods vertical might not add that much to your education. However, if you're somewhat more junior and really only have experience in developed world marketing of packaged goods, then it might actually be a fascinating experience for you to work in an environment where packaged goods are getting unbundled and sold informally, where transportation can be a challenge, and where even entering the market requires a partial joint venture with somebody from the country by law. So, then you're learning about operations issues, you're learning about legal issues, you're learning about financial issues that you might not have the opportunity to learn about in your industry. So it'll be a mix, and that's also true more broadly of the way that we think about teams, particularly for the hard quantitative skills. I don't know who's on this call, so some of you may all be accounting experts. I wasn't. I didn't know anything about accounting when I started my MBA, and it was terrifying and it was really hard at first. The accounting professor in this program is amazing. So he does a workshop before everybody starts that tried to get us up to speed. I got about halfway up to speed and was still really worried about you know, not doing well. I don't know. I'm a nerd. I expect to do well in my classes, and I was freaking out about it. But everybody was in a team in my cohort, at least, with at least one person who had some really significant accounting background, which was a great opportunity to learn from each other. And then we ended up paying that back later in the program when those of us with stronger skills in human resources management or just the academic side of what we were doing could work with folks who maybe didn't have as strong a background or just who hadn't been in school in a long time. So we try and mix up the cohorts in a thoughtful way to maximize the educational value and also the interpersonal interdependence that we can create on the teams.
Thank you. And it looks like we did get one last question in. Would you be able to elaborate around the education around AI in the program? Is it more suited towards the ethics around AI or business impact of AI?
I mean, it's both, or I'm going to say it's three things. It's the ethics of AI, it's the business impact of AI, and it's the small t technical implementation and use of AI. So we have a class on AI and digital technologies that's about how to assess them, how to implement them in a company, how to think about them sort of from a technical lens, not from like a CTO lens, but maybe more from a CEO lens, technically. We have several classes that touch on the ethics of AI. We have an ethics and leadership course that touches on AI, and we have a two-part data analytics and data ethics and governance class that looks broadly at ethical issues involving data, but certainly includes a lot of discussion of AI. And I've now managed to, I've forgotten the third. What was the second part of that question?
Um,
There was ethics and
Ethics or the business impact?
business impact, right? So the business, thank you. The business impact of AI, I'm not sure if this is what you meant, but I would also think of as a broad scale kind of economic and geopolitical question. So you'll see elements of that conversation coming through all over the place. The Global Trends Seminar Series has some conversations about ways that AI is going to affect trade and affect supply chains. There's a climate solutions class that's really conceived of as a strategy class that's going to talk significantly about issues like energy independence that are emerging from the AI revolution or energy autonomy, depending on how you want to think about it. And there's a wonderful sociology class taught by a local elected official here who's also a professor that's going to look at emerging AI opportunities and threats in international trade. So, in that sense, like how business are affected in the macro environment will show up in all kinds of classes.
Thank you. And I believe that's all of our questions.
All right. Well, thank you all. It's great to get to share a little bit about the program with everyone. And thank you, Emma.